These are the 7 things you need to tell your mortgage broker when applying for a mortgage. We had an investor come see us the other day wanting to get a mortgage. Numbers looked good, and our sister company Catalyst put the application in at the bank, feeling really confident. The bank declined it. Why? Because the investor didn't tell us some of these 7 things. So, in this video, you're going to learn what you need to tell your mortgage broker so your application is less likely to be declined by the bank. Number 1 is unused credit cards. Borrowers often forget to tell their mortgage brokers about unused credit cards, but a 10K credit card could stop you borrowing up to 75 grand even if you're not using it. And that's because the banks will test your mortgage application as if you've already maxed it out and are making minimum repayments. So don't forget to tell your mortgage broker about it, because the bank will see it anyway when requesting your credit score and report. And once they find just one thing you haven't told them, they'll think, well, what else aren't you telling us? 2 is debts you've committed to but haven't taken out yet. Put together a mortgage application for another investor, all looked good. Then they casually mentioned, I've also got another house under construction, haven't paid for yet. Alarm bells started ringing because the investor couldn't afford the new debt they were applying for if you also included the house they needed to take out another loan to buy. And if they went ahead or tried to go ahead with both mortgages, they could potentially lose the deposit they put on the house they've got under construction. Number 3, this is a big one, your real documented income. The bank is only going to lend you money based on what's known as your provable income. Another investor came to see our sister company, Catalyst Financial. Husband earned 100K a year, wife worked part-time, earned 25 grand. Now the application looks good based on those numbers. Put the application into the bank. Banks then asked for proof of income. Pretty standard. Turns out the wife gets paid under the table. She doesn't have a contract with her work, and that way she doesn't have to pay tax, which is illegal, by the way. Forgetting the moral side, she can't use the income as part of her mortgage application. It's not going to get approved. Another time, business owner told us he earned 200 grand. He didn't. 200K was his business's revenue. His take-home income was 30 grand. Now, he's not a bad guy. It just wasn't clear to him that when the mortgage application, when the forms ask for business income, it's not your business's revenue, it's your business's profit. And you know what? I can understand that. That's why we're creating this video. Number 4 is overdrafts. These have the same impact as credit cards. Even if you're not using them, they're going to stop you from borrowing. So tell your mortgage broker not just what you owe on an overdraft, but the maximum amount you are currently approved to take out too. That's what's called the limit, and that is what the banks are going to test you on. Number 5, hire purchases and afterpays. Another couple wanted to take out a mortgage. 2 years ago, they'd bought a 15 grand lounge suite from Harvey Norman, put it on 4 years interest free. Payments were automatic, so they'd forgotten that these were still going out. Now the bank picked this up when reviewing their bank statements. That's another 59 grand they can't borrow. Same thing with Afterpay. Even if you've finished paying off an Afterpay or buy now, pay later, if it appears on your bank statements over the last 3 months, it can stop you borrowing. And before we go on to the 6th thing you need to tell your broker, let's be really clear. The issue isn't that these investors have different debts, it's that they didn't tell their broker, and that causes 2 issues. Issue number 1, the banks wonder, what else haven't you told us? That's a big no-no, it's called non-disclosure, and it will stop you from getting your mortgage application approved. Issue number 2 is if you tell your broker in advance, they can give you strategies to help get your mortgage application through the bank. Strategies like the mortgage buster, the commitment issue strategy, and the earn baby earn. And if you want to learn about these strategies, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We release new videos every Monday and Wednesday. Number 6, and this is the number 1 thing borrowers forget to mention, unused revolving credits. Another couple came into Catalyst Financial wanting to buy their first investment property for 800K in Auckland. Broker puts together the application, submits it off to the bank. The broker feels really confident, the numbers are looking good. The bank says no. Why is that? The investors had an unused 50K revolving credit and they were planning to use this to renovate their own home, but they didn't tell the broker about it. And the reason was that they hadn't used it yet. The investors simply didn't mention it because in their eyes, they didn't owe any money yet. It wasn't a liability. But that is not how the bank is going to see it, because although they hadn't taken it out, they still could, and the bank is going to test them as if they'd already spent that 50K. Now, what would happen if you told your broker about that in advance? Well, they could either help you cancel the revolving credit, find another way to fund the renovations, apply to a different lender who's more likely to approve it anyway, or perhaps use the earn baby earn strategy. And number 7, the final thing you need to tell your broker is if you plan to have a baby. Tell your story to tell you why. A couple from Hastings came in to see us here at Opus Partners to buy a new build investment property, and that was going to be completed in 18 months' time. With these types of builds, if your application's looking pretty good, your broker's going to give you the thumbs up. You then won't apply to the bank until the property is closer to being finished. Application looks good, they get the thumbs up from the broker, but after putting the property under contract, they find out they've got a little bundle of joy on the way. Their application initially looked really good, but take out one of those incomes while the wife goes on maternity leave, add an extra mouth to feed, suddenly their mortgage application doesn't look like it'll be approved. Now, that means that the couple is at risk of either losing their deposit that they've put down on that investment property, or they could find themselves stressed trying to sell that property so they don't lose their deposit. This is the worst case scenario, but it's a situation you can avoid if you give your mortgage broker the heads up at the start, because then maybe you can look at another way to fund the property, or you could look at a property that is a little closer to completion. This list isn't to tell you off. It's not to tell you that you're holding things back from your broker. It's just to point out the common misunderstandings between borrowers and brokers, because often investors will see things one way, the banks will see it another. But if you follow this list, you as a borrower, the broker, and the bank will be all on the same page, and your application is much more likely to be approved.